My ex-husband's greedy family showed up at my store. He left us a part of this business. I handed them a stack of unpaid invoices. Great. You can start by covering his debts. But I didn't expect what they had against me. I was restocking the shelves when the doorbell rang. I looked up, expecting to see a customer, but instead I saw Gary's parents, brother and sister-in-law standing in the doorway as if they owned the place. I hadn't seen them since the divorce, but I certainly didn't miss them. They had never liked me. From the moment Gary and I started dating, they made it clear that they didn't think I was good enough for him. Too ambitious, too independent, not family enough, which was just code for not bending over backwards to satisfy their whims. But they put up with me because Gary took care of them. He paid the bills, helped with the mortgage, made sure they never had to worry about money. I wiped my hands on my apron and walked over to them, already prepared for whatever nonsense they were about to spew. "We need to talk," his mother said. "No greetings, no pleasantries. Just straight to the point." I crossed my arms. "About what?" His father took a step forward, puffing out his chest as if he were about to make some grand proclamation. "When Gary left, he told us he was leaving us a piece of the business. We're here to take it." I blinked and gave a short laugh. Of course, they didn't care that their son had left his wife, run off with one of our employees, and left me drowning in debt. No, all they cared about was what they thought they were entitled to. I walked behind the counter, pulled out a thick folder and laid it on the counter in front of them. The stack of unpaid bills and overdue notices was an inch thick. "Great," I said. "You can start by paying off his debts." Their faces fell. His mother flipped through the papers, her expression twisted with disgust. "That's not our responsibility. The business is yours now." "It's always been mine," I shot back. "I built this place. I ran it. Gary invested the money, but he wasn't the one who stayed up late managing the inventory, talking to customers, and making sure we didn't go bankrupt." His brother scoffed. "It doesn't matter. The point is he left us his share. And we want to get it." I couldn't believe their audacity. "So let me get this straight. You want me to pay off all the debts your son left behind and then just hand you a fully functioning business?" His mother smiled broadly. "That's what we're talking about." Then I realized they were not just greedy. They were delusional. I stared at them, expecting one of them to laugh, to say it was some kind of sick joke. But they were serious. Absolutely serious. I exhaled sharply and shook my head. "It's not going to happen. If you want a piece of the business, you can start by cleaning up the mess your son left behind." His mother's lips thinned. "That's not our problem. The debts are in your name." A chill ran through me. "What did you just say?" His father crossed his arms. "Gary took out a loan against the company. In your name. The debt is yours, not his." The room spun around for a second. I grabbed the counter. "That's impossible." "Oh, it is possible," said his brother. "Didn't you sign the papers?" Memories flooded back to me. A few months before everything fell apart, Gary had asked me to sign some documents. He told me it was just a business formality, nothing to worry about. Without hesitation, I trusted my husband. Now, standing here looking at the smug faces of his family, I realized what I had actually signed. I felt sick to my stomach. His daughter-in-law smiled. "You should have been more careful." I gritted my teeth. "He stole from me." His mother scoffed. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. He did what he had to do. You still have the shop, don't you?" I could hardly see that these people had a right to me. Gary had set me up in every way possible, and instead of feeling the slightest bit of shame, they were here trying to capitalize on it. I grabbed the folder with the unpaid bills and shoved it back at them. "I don't care what Gary told you. You won't get a dime from me. Now get out of here." His father's face turned red. "We'll see about that." His mother adjusted the strap of her purse and lifted her chin. "If you won't do this the nice way, we'll go to court. We have a right to his share of the business." I laughed sharply. "Then I guess I'll see you in court." I expected them to leave after that, but they didn't. They just stood there looking at me as if waiting for me to break. But I didn't break. I didn't break. Finally, his mother turned toward the door. "You're going to regret this," she said over her shoulder. I already regretted it, but not the way she thought I would. I barely slept that night. Every conversation, every signature, every moment when I blindly trusted Gary went through my head. How could I not have foreseen this? How could I let him do this to me? In the morning my head was pounding and I had a plan. They wanted to sue me, fine. But I wasn't going to give up and let them steal the only thing I had left. I went through every document I could find. Business contracts, financial reports, anything with Gary's and my name on it. I needed to understand exactly what I had signed and how deep I was in trouble. What I found was worse than I thought. The loan was not only in my name, it was secured by the store. If I didn't pay it back, I wouldn't just be in debt. I could lose everything. Panic tried to creep in, but I pushed it away. I had worked too hard for that. They thought they could come in and take control. They were wrong. A week later, an official court summons came. They were suing me for Gary's supposed share of the business. I felt like I was suffocating. The legal fees alone would have depleted what little I had left. I needed a lawyer and I needed one fast. I went to the same lawyer who had handled my divorce. As I explained the situation, she whistled softly. It's a messy business, but don't panic yet. They have no legal claim to the store unless they get written confirmation from Gary that he has transferred ownership to them. You said he told them they could have it. She huffed. That's not how it works. Relief flooded through me, but it was short-lived. What about the debt? She hesitated. That part is tricky. If he took out a loan in your name and you signed for it, then legally you are responsible. We'll fight it, but it won't be easy. I swallowed hard. It had taken me years to climb out of the mess Gary had left me in. I had finally begun to feel stable again. Now everything was slipping away from me. But I wasn't going to give up without a fight. I squared my shoulders. Then let's make it as hard as possible for them. The first hearing was a nightmare. Gary's family showed up looking smug, dressed as if they were attending a Sunday brunch rather than a court hearing. His mother sat in the middle of the room acting like she already owned the place. Her lawyer argued that since Gary had invested in the business, his family was entitled to a share. They had no documents to support their claim, only words that Gary intended to leave it to them. It would have been funny if the situation wasn't so serious. My attorney broke down their arguments. She pointed out that the business had always been in my name and that Gary had given it up. More importantly, there was no legal document transferring anything to his parents. They had nothing. I expected them to back down after that. Instead, they changed tactics. They pulled out financial documents showing loans that Gary had taken out. The ones I had unwittingly signed. Their lawyer argued that because the debts were in my name, I was financially unstable and therefore unfit to run the business. They argued that the business would be better off under their control. I gripped the edge of the table so hard my knuckles turned white. What audacity! Absolute chutzpah on their part. My lawyer argued that I had been successfully running the business myself for over a year. The only reason for my financial difficulties was the man they were defending. The judge didn't rule that day, but I could tell by the look on her face that she didn't buy their story. It was a small victory, but I wasn't celebrating. A few days later, I received an email from my attorney. We have a problem. Gary's parents had provided new evidence. A document signed by Gary stating that he had transferred his interest in the business to them. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. I knew for a fact that Gary had never signed anything like that. It meant only one thing. They had forged it. I couldn't believe it. They were so desperate that they forged a document and thought they could get away with it. I called my lawyer right away. It's a forgery, I said before she could even finish her explanation. I thought so, she replied. But proving it is another story. I was seething. They were trying to manipulate the system the same way Gary had manipulated me. But they underestimated me. I was no longer the person who blindly trusted my husband. I wanted to fight this. My lawyer asked for a handwriting analysis. If they had forged Gary's signature, we would prove it. But this process could take weeks, and in the meantime they continued to insist on seizing the store. That's when I decided to take matters into my own hands. I began to dig into Gary's past. His finances, his business dealings, anything that might reveal the kind of person he really was. If his family wanted a war, I was ready for a dirty fight. I contacted his old girlfriend who had worked with us in the early days of the shop. She was reluctant at first, but finally admitted that Gary had a habit of cutting corners. Let's just say he wasn't always honest, she said carefully. I pressed her for details and then she dropped the bomb. Apparently, before he ran away, Gary had been involved in some shady business dealings that had gone very, very badly. And if I could find the evidence, I might be able to set things right. I spent the next few days digging through every document, email, and recording I could find. Gary was involved in something illegal. There had to be a lead. And I was determined to find it before his family could take anything else from me. And I found it. Hidden in the old emails was a chain between Gary and a private investor. At first it looked like a normal business deal until I realized that the investor was using a fake name. And how much money was involved. Much more than we had ever made from the shop. I sent it all to my lawyer. She called me the next morning. This looks like fraud. Gary had taken out loans in my name, but that wasn't all. He had also borrowed money from a shady investor who was clearly not in the legitimate business. And then, just like me, he disappeared. If this had come out in court, it would not only have ruined his family's case, but it could have been grounds for an investigation. I did not wait. I called Gary's parents right away. His mother answered, her voice full of false politeness. "We'll see you in court soon, dear," she said. "No," I said. "You won't." I laid it all out. The forged document, the fraudulent loans, the illegal transactions. I told her that if they didn't drop the case immediately, I would make sure that every detail was made public. And if you were involved, you will go down with him. Silence. Then a shaky breath. "You're bluffing. Test me." An hour later, my lawyer got a call. They were dropping the charges. I had won. But I wasn't done. Winning the case should have been the end of the story, but I wasn't satisfied. I had spent years cleaning up the mess Gary had made, paying off debts I didn't even know I had, and fighting his greedy family. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. With the help of an attorney, I filed my own lawsuit, this time against Gary. Fraud, forgery, financial abuse. He may have been in another country, but legal problems tend to catch up with you. I also informed the authorities about the forged document. Even though his parents were not directly involved, they deliberately tried to use it in court. That was enough to get them into trouble. The consequences for them were severe. Gary's parents, who had been living off his money for years, suddenly had their accounts frozen as an investigation into their finances was launched. It turned out that they had profited from some of Gary's shady deals, whether they admitted it or not. His brother lost his job after his employer found out about the fraud. As for Gary himself, I don't know if he saw it coming. Last I heard, he was forced to leave the country he fled to after some business partners started looking for him. Poetic justice, if you ask me. But it was time for me to move on. The shop became a battleground, a reminder of everything I had been through. I didn't want to keep it anymore. So I sold it on my own terms. I used the money to pay off the last of my debts, packed up and moved to another state. Started all over again. A new life. I have no regrets. I lost a lot because of Gary, but in the end I won. Not only in court but in life. Because while they were picking up the pieces, I walked away free.